Yo, what's going on, people? It's your boy J Wave in the house. We're here, going right to it. Man, I feel bad for Jordan Peterson, man. He got violated, but guess what? He came back with a bang. Okay, so today, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go over the article, react to the article, then we're gonna talk about akathesia, right? The condition that he was having after the withdrawals, okay? And then we're gonna go and even go deeper into akathesia and see if someone can have akathesia from benzo withdrawals. We're also going to talk about a very, very, very sad story. But I believe that all these things need to be heard because it is very unfair what happened to Jordan Peterson. This article that we're going to read, I've already watched everything, and the lady was very insensitive. I listened to the whole clip on Jordan Peterson's page. I'm also going to post that in my description box. You could go watch it. Man, and she also even went further to insult the daughter. So there's a lot of things we have to address here because I don't know if this is hate or what exactly this is, but I know that this is not just and this is not fair. I don't know what's happening in this postmodernist society where everybody has to find a way to belittle people if they do not agree with them. I believe that we can have two different opinions and coexist. We don't have to tear each other down because clearly this lady was coming from a very, very nasty standpoint. We all know Jordan Peterson. We all know where he stands. We all know people who are against what he stands for, people who look at him as a a misogynist or whatever. I believe that he is not a misogynist, but when it comes down to it, it's not why we're here. Okay, so I'm just gonna who's Jordan Peterson? Let's start with that. Okay, who is Jordan Peterson? I think we should start with that.
Well, I'm a psychologist and a researcher and a professor and an author and a business consultant and a speaker. And I don't know if that's the proper order. I have a family. I have a wife and children. That's me. I've become notorious or well-known because of my YouTube presence. I don't know exactly how you characterize someone like
Notorious,
that. A media personality, a new media
unfortunately.
personality, I suppose. I have a very popular podcast and a very popular YouTube channel with 2 million subscribers and a million Twitter followers and 500,000 Facebook followers. And it's some insane number of social media contacts. And I've learned how to use that, I suppose, to some degree over the last 4 or 5 years. And it's exploded. Well, I mean, what I used it for to begin with, YouTube, was to put my lectures online because they were popular and because there was some interest from television stations in Canada, a small television station, and they were a small hit by the standards of such things. And I thought, well, there's YouTube. I don't know what the hell YouTube is for. How about I record my lectures and put them on YouTube and see what happens? Maybe I can thousands of people instead of dozens of people. And why not? So I set up an iPad and a lapel mic, for $200 and started to record my lectures. And they became very popular even before all the political scandal enveloped me. And then, well, in 2016, I objected to legislation that was brought in by the Canadian federal government. It had already been brought in by the provincial governments, mandating certain forms of, not only certain forms of speech, but certain forms of conceptualization about what constitutes sex and gender. And I felt that it was unconscionable. There's no scientific justification for it. There's no logical justification for it. It's completely incoherent doctrine and policy. I think it's dangerous beyond belief. I think it's an incredible intrusion on free speech. I know that the legislation is unprecedented in British common law history. And I also know that in the United States, the Supreme Court in 1942, I believe, expressly forbade precisely what the Canadian federal government did in 2016. And so because I objected to that, I got myself in a tremendous amount of political trouble because people assumed that I was bigoted against trans people and racist and homophobic and all the other things that you're tarred and feathered with if you dare to have an opinion that varies from the noisy virtue signaling minority. And after that, I think partly because I already had 300 YouTube videos up, things just exploded around me. And also I published a book in January of 2018, which added to the 2018? Yes, 2018, which it added to the general racket, let's say. And I found myself in a very strange position, traveling the world, talking to I've traveled to 160 cities in the last year and spoken to about 350,000 people about personal responsibility and the meaning that is to be found in not in rights, but in responsibility. And no one seems to be talking about that for reasons.
And we're going to end it there. Okay. So we've gotten a picture of who Jordan Peterson is, right? That is pretty much who he is. This is what he's been going through. This is his plight, okay? Because without knowing his plight and what he's going through, what he's been through, we can't know what's happening right now with this situation. Now, I'm not going to be able to play the whole interview that is on his page. I need you to go to his page when you get the chance to see the whole interview. But we're about to read this article. Now, this article is the one that I want us to read and react to. After that, we're going to go into AKAthesia. And then after we go into AKAthesia, okay, we're going to then give an example of how benzodiazepines could cause akathisia. And if this akathisia is not taken care of, could further line lead to death. Because we are over here thinking that a lot of people will be under the impression that akathisia has something to do with only uh, what do you call it? With only antipsychotic medication, but that is not the case. Okay, akathisia could be from SSRIs. It could be from uh, atypical antipsychotics, classic antipsychotics. If somebody has schizophrenia, they can have akathisia. I will show you what akathisia is. I will show you the symptoms and how people react when they have akathisia, and they're very, very, very on the verge of death. They want to do stuff to themselves. Let's just put it like that. This is very important for us to know. But before that, let's go straight into the article. This article is written by this lady right here, the lady in the top left, and she's of course they said what, a senior editor, right? Yeah, she's a chief interviewer for Sunday Times, okay? And she says she's interviewed Oprah, Hillary Clinton, J.K. Rowling, Johnny Depp, Madonna. Okay, that's cool. Like, nobody's here to discredit her. Maybe she's good, maybe she's not. I've never heard of her. But what I'm here to say today is this. She was very, 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 very cold on that interview. She was very cold for somebody who was going through what he went through, and he was very apologetic and crying on that interview because of all the things he had been through and relating it to the struggles of other young people out there. I believe that she was very cold, very apathetic, and this was something that I felt like needed to be broadcasted from my perspective, because it is very, very unfair when a woman, not only a woman, but an individual of her caliber, is in the place to show apathy and show love as a human being, and all they do is do the opposite. Because, in my opinion, she not at any point in that interview, when you guys go listen to it, would you see her feel bad for him or feel any empathy towards him? And that's a shame. But now let's go straight into the interview, and I mean into the article that she wrote, and talk about it, because man, this is different. I won't lie to you, this is different. So yeah, this is the article. The title is Jordan Peterson on his depression, drug dependency, and Russian rehab hell. Russian rehab hell. Meanwhile, it was the Russian rehab that helped him survive, though. He was here first. He was in the West. Okay, no one was able to help him. He felt like no one was able to help. You see, but she's saying that Russian rehab hell. Listen, I don't care for Russia. I'm not an advocate of Russia, but I'm just an advocate of the truth, and I don't really appreciate it when an individual tries to spin a story around to just make it sound like, you know, to just make it sound like a total opposite of what it is. But let's go into this article. I'm gonna have it read for you guys so we could react to it. I don't know what else to say.
He thought this was going to be a normal interview with Jordan Peterson. After speaking with him at length, and with his daughter for even longer, I no longer have any idea what it is. I don't know if this is a story about drug dependency, or doctors, or Peterson family dynamics. or a parable about toxic masculinity. Whatever else it is, it's very strange. Peterson, a clinical psychologist, is a conservative superstar of the culture wars. Born and raised in Alberta by a librarian and a teacher, he spent the first 3 decades of his career in relative academic obscurity, churning out papers and maintaining a small clinical practice. All that changed in 2016 when he challenged, on free speech grounds, a new Canadian law he argued would legally compel him to use transgender people's preferred pronouns. Practically overnight, the Toronto professor became a YouTube sensation, posting videos and lectures attacking identity politics and political correctness, and dispensing bracing advice about how to be a real man. His 2018 self-help bestseller, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, has made him arguably the world's most famous, and certainly its most controversial, public intellectual.
And that's, I believe, what the problem is. See, she started off by saying, I don't know if it's a parable about toxic masculinity. I need you guys to go and listen to the whole video on Jordan Peterson's page, okay? I'm so happy that his daughter Michaela actually recorded it. And tell me if you get any hint of toxic masculinity. This man was crying the whole time. They were only like 5 to 10 minute stints where he would talk and not cry. The whole time he was emotional crying. And he wasn't only crying because of himself, he was crying also because of the people who need help out there, who could be suffering what he's suffering. Okay. And they are not able to be heard or seen. You see, I'm bringing awareness to this AKAthesia thing because clearly there is a problem. People don't really know about it, and even medical practitioners don't know about it that much. And I'm going to show you a scholarly article, okay, that even says this. So this is not something that I'm just saying, okay? I'm not just talking. But let's keep moving forward. It's just very painful to me. It's just very painful to me that this is the case.
For 3 tumultuous years, wherever Peterson went, uproar and adoration followed. His explosive confrontation with Kathy Newman on Channel 4 News in 2018 resulted in the network calling in security experts after some of his supporters posted abuse and threats online. To the millions of young men who idolize him, the erudite, unflappable 58-year-old is a kind of fantasy father figure. Life is tough, he warns them. They need to stop whining, tidy their room, stand up straight and deal with it. He accuses the neo-Marxist radical left of trying to feminize men and defends traditional masculine dominance. According to Peterson, men represent order. To his critics, he represents the respectable face of reactionary misogyny and the dangerous gateway drug to online alt-right radicalization.
And you see the problem? That is the problem. This is fundamentally, right, a feminism versus quote unquote misogyny article. Now, if at this point that we're at in life, okay, will you see somebody suffering and you cannot put your identity politics to the side and be human, then we are in chaos. We are in chaos. I can't stress this enough. If identity politics is now the only thing that matters to us as a people, that at times we cannot drop it to the side and be human, I don't know what else to say, because of this is clearly what's happening. So clearly the world is becoming less sensitive and more about I'm this and you are that, and you know what? That trumps even if you were if you were on the verge of death. That is my opinion, because this is very, very, very appalling to read. I don't have anything else to say but that. It's very appalling and it breaks my heart to even read this, you know? But let's continue.
If his rise to fame was dramatic, what has happened since he disappeared from public view 18 months ago sounds fantastical. In his daughter's words, it is like a horror movie. A movie in which her father gets hooked on benzodiazepines, becomes suicidal, is hospitalized for his own safety, and then diagnosed with schizophrenia. Against his doctor's advice, she flies him to Russia to be placed in an induced coma. He emerges delirious, unable to walk, and ricochets from one rehab center to another, ending up in a Serbian clinic where he contracts COVID-19. Back home in Canada at last, from where he speaks to me earlier this month, he breaks down in floods of tears and has to leave the room. When I ask if he feels angry with himself for taking benzodiazepines, his daughter jumps in, arms waving, hold on, and tries to bring the interview to a close. Russian roulette, Jordan and Michaela in Moscow, where he tried an unorthodox...
Can you see that? She's trying to shame him. She's literally trying to shame him. It's just crazy. Like, how do you try to shame a man who, what? He was having problems with autoimmune disease, okay? First of all, he was on SSRIs for a long time. Okay, after being on SSRIs for almost 14 years, right? He gets off the SSRIs because he loses some weight, and then she also says something about apple cider vinegar, which was not even. It was apple cider vinegar and sodium metabisulfide, right? And she was trying to, and the daughter told her about this. Okay, he was also taking some of that, but from around that time, he started feeling weak and tired and not good or whatever, and the pain was kicking in. He went to a physician, and the physician prescribed him what? Benzodiazepine. Okay, this was a lower dose. This is how he started taking it. He did not go and start taking the benzodiazepines illegally. We are all human. We could all go through things that make us end up taking something, or whatever the case may be. A lot of people don't know the strength of benzodiazepines and not knowing that they can't get off the medication. I know this for a fact. Okay? Like, I'm not just talking here because I've not been in the medical field or something. I'm not going to sit over here and start advertising what I do or who I am, but I could say that for a fact. And benzodiazepine is definitely medication you don't want to take past 10 days. But guess what? That was also, according to him, even, right? And it's true, right? Like, that was actually last fall, this was made a rule. But the point I'm trying to make is this: if we are so insensitive to people who are going through tough things, who are going through life, because of you're trying to be petty, you're trying to tell them, oh, weren't you preaching this on that? So why are you complaining? This is not life, man. This is not life. This is not how we're supposed to be living life as humans. Humanity first, over any identity politics. We can argue over that later. But let's continue, man. It just breaks my heart.
If this was a movie, its director would unquestionably be the 28-year-old Mikhaila Peterson, CEO of her father's company. She and her Russian husband appear to have assumed full charge of his affairs, so before I am allowed to speak to him I must first talk to her. Unrecognizable from the ordinary-looking brunette from photos just a few years ago, Mikhaila today is a glossy, pouting Barbie blonde, and talks with the zealous, spiky conviction of a President Trump press spokeswoman.
I just want to say, if anybody reads this article and agrees with the lady that's writing this article, you have to look within yourself and ask yourself, are you okay? And this is with all due respect. If anybody just read that paragraph, right? Anybody who read that paragraph, especially to you feminists, okay? Read, because of, I know, like, this lady is clearly a feminist, which is not a problem. But if anybody reads this paragraph right here, right? And I'm so serious, okay? Anybody read this paragraph over here and agrees with it, you have to. You just have to question yourself. Because if this lady just goes into the way this lady, how Jordan Peterson's daughter Michaela looks, is this any relevance in this article? I don't think so. But when you see shade and you see hate and you see literally shade and hate, this is how it comes. This is what it looks like. And honestly speaking, as humans, I just can't believe this is something going on right now. Like, this lady is getting shade and hate, and she was the one who helped her father survive. So excuse me, if my father allows me to take care of his affairs, this is very unfair. Man, let's continue.
According to her website, she has suffered from juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, an autoimmune disorder, since early childhood, which necessitated a hip and ankle replacement at 17. Other symptoms: chronic fatigue, depression, OCD, nosebleeds, restless legs, brain fog, itchy skin, the list goes on, forced her to drop out of university, and it finally occurred to me that whatever was happening was likely going to end in my death, and rather soon. After almost 20 years, the medical community still had no answers for me. So she decided to cure herself. In 2015, Mikhaila began to experiment with food elimination. Starting with gluten, she removed one food group after another from her diet, until for the past 3 years she has eaten literally nothing but red meat, almost exclusively beef and salt. This has, she claims, cured everything. She now makes podcasts and blogs about her lion diet. Needless to say, the medical profession does not endorse this diet. Nevertheless, in 2018 her father adopted it and within months declared it had cured his depression, anxiety, psoriasis, snoring, gingivitis, gastric reflux, even the floaters in his right eye. He stopped taking the SSRI antidepressants that he had been on for 14 years. He proclaimed, intellectually at my best.
Honestly speaking, this is what I have to say about the diet. I do not endorse and I do not say at the same time the diet is bad. Why do I not do either one? Because it's none of my business. I really do not understand why even this article is about Michaela. Okay, you want to talk about her in the slightest bit. You're going on, you're writing, it's on her website, so I guess you're going to say it's public knowledge. Why are you talking about condition that she has? Can somebody have privacy? Or I guess they can't. I don't understand why you decided to write this article to be so malicious. I really don't understand why be malicious. Why be malicious? Why? What's the point of being malicious? I really want to know. Because right now, if anybody reads this, all they're gonna say is you literally just came from a place of hate and you have a vendetta, an agenda against these people. Because if you don't, there's no reason why you should be writing about the daughter's rheumatoid arthritis, about her diet. It's none of your business. If they say it works out for them, it works out for them. What's your stake in that? Are you trying to say they're lying? I don't get it. Even if they are, their fans don't care. And they're not lying. But why would they be lying about that? We clearly saw him lose weight since 20. We saw him lose weight. So I don't understand what is the problem with people saying what they do. People are vegans every day. It's not fully recommended by doctors either. And that's a fact. There's B12 deficiencies, there's different deficiencies, or folate, whatever it is, they come with being vegan. So they could supplement on the side. You don't know what they were doing. You're just coming and you're just being a mean person. I don't know. Is this your culture or is this who did what to you? This is the real question. Because I don't understand why you have to be so mean.
Like every medical autodidact I've ever met, Michaela rattles off pharmacological jargon at 100 miles an hour, sweeping from one outlandish tale to another with breathless melodrama that becomes increasingly exhausting to follow. She wants to give me the nitty-gritty nasty details of the past 18 months herself, because Dad is still not fully recovered, and he's still extremely prone to anxiety, so any recounting of the story knocks him out for a couple of days. After 80 minutes on Zoom, the one thing of which I'm certain is that, were I as close to death as she assures me her father repeatedly was, this is not the person I would entrust with saving my life.
What? This is not the person I would entrust with saving my life. What is the problem? What is the hate about? This is not the person I would entrust with saving my life. Well, she saved her father's. According to them, she saved her father's. Why are you being so hateful and so? I don't get it. Why is the mainstream why is the mainstream media supporting her too? I don't get it. Because this is pure hate. Pure hate. And I'm not saying hate in a just a joking way. This is real hate. Because if you don't dislike and hate the person, you will not do this. You will not do this. This is too deep.
The problems all began, according to Michaela, in October 2016. By then she, her husband and her father were consuming only meat and greens. The full lion diet would come later, and ate a stew that contained apple cider, to which all three had a violent sodium metabisulfite response. It was really awful, but it hit him hardest. He couldn't stand up without blacking out. He had this impending sense of doom. He wasn't sleeping. Peterson himself has said he didn't sleep for 25 days, a claim that has been widely disputed, given that the longest period of sleeplessness recorded is 11 days. Michael brushes this away impatiently. He was in really bad shape, right? Peterson had plenty of reasons to be unsettled. His book 12 Rules would be coming out a year later. His job at the University of Toronto was in jeopardy due to the transgender pronoun controversy. So that was incredibly stressful, Michaela agrees. And then just going from not being known to being known was stressful. But our entire family agrees. The main problem here was this weird health thing. They consulted doctors, who didn't really know what was going on, until the family GP prescribed a really low dose of benzodiazepine, the family of sedative drugs that includes Valium. It seemed to help. And we were like, okay, whatever.
Wow, look, listen. She is going looking for nitty-gritty stuff and trying to make him look stupid. Listen, he's not stupid. He said he didn't sleep for 25 days. Listen, the guy clearly is saying that as a metaphor. And if it's not clear, let me say it. Somebody could say they didn't sleep for 25 days. Do you know all the things that he's been through in the past 18 months? You clearly heard them say that he couldn't even remember certain things. So he's telling you a story of something that happened how long ago in 2016? We're in 2021. Yeah, and but he actually had this interview with you. I'm guessing in 2020, and yes, I'm guessing it's 2020. If it's not 2020, it's 2021. So that's even 5 more years. If it's 2020, it's 4 years. So if I tell you that I couldn't sleep for 25 days and you can't take that and understand that I couldn't sleep for days, because even if I can't sleep for 7 to 8 days, it's still a problem. Okay? It's still a problem. But you're reading everything he's saying so literal because of you have so much hate in your heart and you just want to destroy him with all the hate you have in your heart. And that's the point I'm trying to make. You have hate that you need to address. You are a person. This is a person of highest of in a high position in media. Okay, the UK Times. I do not dispute the fact that you're a feminist because it is clear. Okay, that's even why you brought up the Kathy Newman interview. She's probably one of your besties. I don't even, which is not my problem. I'm not here about feminism stuff. The point I'm trying to make is that is why you have an agenda against this man and his family. And my question to you is this: if you are a feminist, don't you care about his daughter that you will not be striking her down? So this is some hypocrisy going on here. What is the agenda? What do you want from this man? What is the problem? That's my question.
By early 2019, Peterson was a household name, his book a global bestseller, when disaster struck. His wife of 30 years, Tammy, was diagnosed with kidney cancer. We did a whole bunch of research and it was this extremely rare cancer that is extremely deadly. Tammy suffered all kinds of surgical complications, and Peterson spent months at her hospital bedside, terrified she would die. That summer his doctor raised his benzodiazepine dose, but instead of soothing him it seemed only to make matters worse. Dad started to get super weird. It manifested as extreme anxiety and suicidality.
Yes, you guys should go learn what Sig E caps means. Okay? He was probably going through, and matter of fact, not even Sig E caps. That is major depressive disorder. You guys need to go learn about anxiety. Okay? And guess what? An anxiolytic is typically a benzodiazepine. Now, this is 2016. I don't know what the regulations were then for benzos, but we know this medication is highly addictive. But he came in acutely. If he came in acutely anxious and he got prescription medication for that, this is what happens. Are you going to say if your brother had an opioid addiction because he was prescribed an opioid for pain, that now we're just gonna be insensitive to him? Because that's literally what's happening. If your family member goes and gets into a pill problem, are we gonna now start not caring? By the way, it was ductal carcinoma. That's the name. Because if you did a lot of research, at least what you could have done is write details about that cancer, right? Instead of writing details about people that is irrelevant. About 25 days of sleep versus 11 days of sleep. Are you serious? Is this what really matters? See, the things that really matter, this poor woman who had Tammy, who had ductal carcinoma, right? And the fact that she had lymphatic drainage issues after she had the surgery, that could have been more detailed, but that didn't matter to you. You see, and you're gonna come across like you care about other women, but look at a woman here. Two women here that you've clearly neglected one and destroyed the other. This to me does not show that you are a feminist. Feminist women that care about other women, look out for them and take care of them. It would have been one thing if this your article at least looked out for the other women, but clearly that was not your intention. Your intention was just to come, search and destroy. Yes, that was your intention. Search and destroy. It's a shame.
On another psychiatrist's advice, he quit the drug and started taking ketamine, but cold turkey sent him into benzodiazepine withdrawal. Another psychiatrist, a family friend, told him to resume the benzodiazepine and check into a rehab clinic to help wean him back off it slowly. After 6 weeks in rehab in Connecticut, he was in a worse state than ever, still on benzodiazepine plus now additional drugs, unable to stop pacing or writhing with agitation. Frightened he would kill himself, Peterson transferred to a public hospital in Toronto in November, where he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. The hospital wanted to treat him with electroconvulsive therapy, but Michaela and her family were having none of it. It's not like we're uneducated in these things, right? She says. We kept telling them, no, the problem was his medication. But they wouldn't listen to us. So we started calling rehab clinics around the world. We ran 57 of them. And this one place in Russia was like, yeah, we do detox. So we thought, what do we do? It's got to be dangerous, because no one else will do it. But my family agreed, let's give it a shot. The Toronto doctors were not okay with it. We had to sign papers taking responsibility for whatever happened, and they were annoyed about it enough that they wouldn't give us his discharge papers, which is not even legal, right? It was a complete mess. In January last year, with the help of her husband, a nurse and a security guard, Michaela put Peterson on a private plane to Moscow. The clinic there was more familiar with detoxing patients from opiates than benzodiazepines. They took one look at Peterson and said he'd been deliberately poisoned. And I was like, no, it's the meds. To complicate matters further, the clinic intubated him for undiagnosed pneumonia. Did she feel her father was in safe hands? Well, my husband was translating everything, which was terrifying. But the clinic looked really modern. It didn't look sketchy. The medics administered propofol, the drug that killed Michael Jackson, to induce an 8-day coma, during which they did something called plasmapheresis, which takes your blood and cleans it. Benzodiazepines have such a long half-life, there's a theory that maybe some of the withdrawal is because you still have benzodiazepines in you. So the plasmapheresis got rid of everything. When Peterson regained consciousness, it became clear that they were not out of the woods yet. He was catatonic. Really, really bad. And then he was delirious. He thought my husband was his old roommate. Oh, it was horrible. Did she panic? Yeah, I lost a whole bunch of hair. I've never been that stressed in my entire life. We brought Dad here and it was like, what did the detox do? Was it too hard on his brain? I thought, I'm a asterisk head if this goes badly. The entire world is going to blame me because it brings somebody to detox from these medications in Russia. It's like, this is really bad. Peterson was transferred to a public hospital near Moscow for people with severe head trauma, basically. It was like a Soviet-era hospital from a movie, but it was full of really, thank God, really, 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 really skilled doctors. So I went the next day, and Dad was back. The doctors had put him on new drugs. He was alert. By now it was February and Peterson had no memory of anything since mid-December. He had even forgotten how to type. Over 8 days, he learned to walk again, and was then transferred to another clinic to convalesce. In late February, his family flew him to Florida, rented a house in Palm Beach, hired nurses and thought he would recover. But 10 days later, all the old symptoms came back. Unable to stop moving, in pain, Peterson was suicidal again. And I was like, what is going on? Michaela contacted a clinic in Serbia, this, like, top-of-the-world private hospital, and flew her father to Belgrade, where he was diagnosed with AKAthesia, a condition of restlessness classically linked to benzodiazepine withdrawal. Finally, Michaela had found doctors who corroborated her own theory. They prescribed further sedatives and antidepressants and an opiate. Her father seemed stoned, but at least started to relax. Father and daughter released a podcast, updating fans on his recovery. And then Serbia went into lockdown, so she moved into her father's clinic with her husband, their nanny and 3-year-old daughter, and all 5 of them promptly contracted COVID. By now, my head is spinning. The blizzard of obscure pharmaceutical terminology keeps on coming, as Michaela reels off the names of more antibiotics and antidepressants and antipsychotics prescribed to her father, recounting her objections to this one and that one until it all becomes a blur. The long and the short of it is that late last year, Peterson flew home to Canada. His AKAthesia, the intense agitation and restlessness that makes him suicidal, has improved significantly but not disappeared. No one can understand why it still plagues him. He still isn't free of meds. Having gone through several more doctors in Toronto, Michaela is currently corresponding online with thousands of AKAthesia sufferers who are telling me what worked for them.
Listen. You're not gonna get away with it, and I'm so happy you didn't. Okay? See all the stuff that you may sound like jargon, whatever. It was recorded. Okay? Talking about fluoroquinolones, talking about all those medications. It was recorded. Okay? Because you're making it sound like all the things she was saying it wasn't accurate. Fluoroquinolones do give side effects. There is something called akathisia. After you take for the most part, any most of the mental health medications could give you the side effect. Okay, like you wrote over there that the father had schizophrenia because of doctors diagnose him with schizophrenia? Why didn't every single doctor diagnose him with schizophrenia then? Have you written any symptoms of schizophrenia in this article? No. So you clearly wrote all those things just to discredit the man. Clearly. You think that if he has schizophrenia, people will still stop talking to him? No, they won't. They're gonna stop listening to him? No, they won't. I'm gonna let you know that right now. They won't. And guess what? He does not have schizophrenia because of guess what? There is no proof in your article that shows us that he has schizophrenia. That's what I have to say. You said everything else. You've spoken about akathesia. There's no connection between akathesia and schizophrenia. People that get akathesia get it within weeks of taking antipsychotics or taking SSRIs or different other things, which we're about to get into real soon. But the point I'm trying to make is you cannot sit over here and say that this man had what? Schizophrenia. You did not say any other thing that he was diagnosed with that they said that other hospitals said, or the fact that other hospitals were not even able to diagnose him. They just thought the whole time he had Benzowithdrawal, because that is what a lot of healthcare practitioners they don't know about even withdrawal symptoms and stuff. They just if you tell them you're off of a benzodiazepine. How many doctors have seen people who are off benzodiazepine that survive? A lot of them have not seen that thing and brought them to life. Do you know how hard that is? A lot of people don't know about that. Do you think there's so much literature about it? Clearly not, because if there was, everybody would know about it. Even the people in Russia, they at least cleaned his blood. They said he got poisoned. I repeat, they said he got poisoned. They said he got poisoned. Yeah, this might be sounding like, oh, but why don't she write an article looking more into that? Did he get poisoned? Or was this a mistake? See, we don't know. But the whole point of this article was just to make him look stupid, make him look dumb, and that's what I believe. Like, the whole point of this article was to make him look stupid and make him look like, yes, the misogynist is back. He said he was going through withdrawals, but he really wasn't. But he's a misogynist, so let's keep hating him. No, he's a human. Let's put all that to the side. He's a human. And I don't understand why people can't have a heart. He's a human. Man, it sucks, yo.
Has she ever, I wonder, felt perceived by the medical profession as the problem? Completely, yes. 100%. I've been problematic for a while. She starts to laugh. I'm pretty pushy when I think something is wrong. She doesn't have any actual medical training, though, I point out. Doesn't she worry about the responsibility she has assumed for her father's treatment? But because of my experience of being ill, I've done a lot of research. There's this trust people have of doctors that I don't have. Because doctors are just people, right? This opinion is not uncommon in North America, where surprising numbers regard YouTube as a viable substitute for medical school. Whatever your opinion of Peterson, however, his scrupulous deference to scientific data is indisputable. His public image is defined by scholarly precision. There's no evidence for that, is practically his catchphrase. I am dying to ask him why he submitted to this medical circus, orchestrated by his daughter against his doctor's orders, when we speak the following day. But at the end of this long and often bewildering account from his daughter, I still can't tell if her father will be cogent or incoherent. I don't know what to expect. And Mike Kyla will, of course, be monitoring our conversation. Peterson is as impeccably groomed, composed and meticulously courteous as ever when he appears on Zoom a day later. He looks gaunt and pale, though, and I'm struck by an overwhelming sense of his vulnerability. As the professor is famously data-driven, I ask what medical evidence was so compelling that it persuaded him to detox in Moscow. He looks slightly blank. I don't remember anything. From December 16th of 2019 to February 5th, 2020, he says, I don't remember anything at all. He reassures me that he did, nonetheless, consent to being treated in Moscow, so again I ask why. Well, I went to the best treatment clinic in North America, and all they did was make it worse. So we were out of options. The judgment of my family was that I was likely going to die in Toronto. Why would he put his life in the hands of his family and not the medical profession? I had put myself in the hands of the medical profession. And the consequence of that was that I was going to die, he repeats blankly. So it wasn't that the evidence from Moscow was compelling. It was that we were out of other options. I'm curious about the extent to which his mental health was troubling him in the months and years leading up to the crisis. On his book tour, he delivered a different lecture each night at 160 cities in 200 days, addressing crowds of many thousands. Fated as a psychological authority in possession of all the answers, busy dispensing advice to fans about their mental health. How worried was he about his own? Well, I don't think it's a mental health issue. I think it's a physical health issue. I have an autoimmune disorder of some sort, and much depression is autoimmune in nature. Now I'm confused all over again. Throughout all his medical ordeals, there wasn't ever a formal diagnosis of an autoimmune disorder, was there? Yeah, there was. Mikhailo jumps in. In Russia and in Serbia. Fibromyalgia. That isn't an autoimmune condition, is it? I mean, Peterson says vaguely, these sort of autoimmune conditions aren't very well understood, and fibromyalgia is a good example of that. It's terra incognita. Then he starts talking instead about post-traumatic stress disorder. One of the markers for post-traumatic stress disorder is derealization. Like when the things around you don't seem real. And I was in a constant state of derealization from October 2016 till... He checks the day's date with a mirthless chuckle. January 12th of 2021. Being Jordan Peterson, he explains, has involved 5 years of untold pressure. I was at the epicenter of this incredible controversy, and there were journalists around me constantly, and students demonstrating. It's really emotionally hard to be attacked publicly like that. And that happened to me continually for, 3 years. In 2017, 200 of his colleagues signed a petition at the University of Toronto to have me removed from my tenure position, and my faculty association forwarded that to the administration without even notifying me. When he gave a talk at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, protesters were banging on the windows. It was like a zombie attack. They arrested a woman who was carrying a garrote, for God's sake. And I was harassed directly after the demonstration by a small coterie of insane protesters who were in my face for 2 blocks, 3 blocks, yelling and screaming. Was it frightening? I guess I'd have to say yes, definitely. I was concerned for my family. I was concerned for my reputation. I was concerned for my occupation. And other things were happening. The Canadian equivalent of the Inland Revenue Service was after me, making my life miserable, for something they admitted was a mistake 3 months later, but they were just torturing me to death. The College of Psychologists that I belonged to was after me because one of my clients had put forth a whole sequence of specious allegations. So that was extraordinarily stressful. He was, and remains, intensely frustrated that journalists keep casting his work as fundamentally political. I really don't like upsetting people, he says. I'm a clinical psychologist. It's in my nature to help people.
Man. You see the hate, right? Because the point she's trying to make is, aren't you the one preaching, take care of people? Aren't you the one preaching, pretty much get up and by your bootstraps kind of thing? Responsibility. Yo, we're human. Anybody cracks. Are you blaming the people who take drugs? Are you blaming the celebrities who've taken drugs before? Are you coming for them? There's a lot of people who have said things that they don't do. You know that. I'm pretty sure you're even proven to be something that you are not. You're proven to be something that you are not. Because you're saying you're a feminist and you over here trying to rip the daughter apart. You say you care, you probably claim to care about women, but you clearly don't. So people always could make mistakes and be, yes, not everybody is some people are gonna have discrepancies, facts.
I'm a clinical psychologist. It's in my nature to help people. I'm not interested in generating controversy. I've been trying to help people understand that they need a profound meaning in their life because their lives are difficult. His fans' enthusiasm for his tough love message quite unravels him. The response has been continually amazing. I don't know what to make of it. What should I think of the fact that I have 600 million views on YouTube? He certainly thinks about it a lot. He references his viewing figures repeatedly, with a kind of awestruck wonder. So it's the scale of exposure
So what?
Well, I mean,
It's the
it's
truth.
not unparalleled, because there is no shortage of famous people, but it's certainly unparalleled for me. I mean, when all this hit me I was already 55 or something. I'd labored under relative obscurity, but now I've had this incredible view into the suffering of thousands and thousands of people, and I can't go out without people coming up to me, and they're usually quite emotional, and his voice trembles, then cracks. You don't have conversations like that often, outside of the clinical sphere. So part of what's overwhelming to me is how it's direct evidence of how little encouragement so many people get. His face crumbles into tears. They're starving. He breaks down. Sorry, he sobs. I haven't done an interview for a long time. He gets up to leave and returns a minute later carrying a towel to dry his eyes. And things just fell apart insanely with his wife, Tammy. Every day was life and death in crisis for 5 months. The doctors said, well, she's contracted this cancer that's so rare there's virtually no literature on it, and the 1-year fatality rate is 100%. So endless nights sleeping on the floor in emergency, and continual surgical complications. He looks shell-shocked. So I took the benzodiazepines. Those drugs are notoriously addictive, I point out. He had surely heard enough horror stories about housewives hooked on Valium in the 1960s to be wary. No, I really didn't give it a second thought. They were prescribed and I just took them. Maybe they really were the cause of all his problems. The more he talks, though, the more I wonder whether toxic masculinity might have been a culprit, too. His family history of depression might tell us something about the price to be paid for his bootstrap philosophy. That when life became excruciatingly stressful, Peterson's stand up, man up, suck it up mentality didn't work. At the very point when the most famous public intellectual on the planet was preaching a regime of order and self-discipline, he was privately in chaos. Parallels with Donald Trump come to mind. Another unhappy man closed off from his emotions, projecting strongman mythology while hunkered down in a bunker with his family against the world.
You are an evil person. You are an evil person. Somebody's going through something that's really, really rough. And you come over here and you make a comparison to Donald Trump. You're over here talking about toxic masculinity is the reason why he was going through what he's going through. How on earth anybody supports what you're writing in this? I will never, ever, ever understand. Because if there's anybody who supports this, please write in the comments. I want to know if there's humans like this, like her, that exist. And if you guys do exist, please let me know. What is the way? What can I do to help you? What can I do to help you? And if I can't, what is wrong with you? Because this is hate. Hate to the highest magnitude. Toxic masculinity is not in play here. This all written here is toxic. I don't want to say femininity because I know there's a lot of women that's not like this. But this right here is hate. You see what I'm saying? Hate. And listen, for my black sisters that's watching this, I hope you are paying attention as well, because this is what hate looks like. And on this earth, if there's anything called hate, this is what it is. This right here. I've never ever in my life reviewed an article and felt the hate oozing through the article. I've never.
Peterson's critics will undoubtedly point out that he built an entire intellectual philosophy upon the principle that life is all about pain and suffering, that the strong, manly response is to square one's shoulders and battle through it, not to take drugs to numb the pain. No, I've never said that. Look, if you're a viable clinician, you encourage people to take psychiatric medication when it's appropriate. What I really encourage in people is to understand that it isn't useful to allow your suffering to make you resentful. And, believe me, I've had plenty of temptation to become resentful about what's happened to me in the last 2 years. When I watched the podcast he made last June with Mike Hyla in Belgrade, I tell him, I thought he looked angry, and wondered to what he was angry with. Well, pain will make you angry. Is any part of Peterson angry with himself for taking benzodiazepines? He hesitates. I wouldn't say angry, but it's not like I failed to see the irony. That was another thing that continues to make it difficult to stomach. You know, should I have known better? Possibly. Michaela interrupts sharply. Well, but he continues. I mean, I did do my thesis on alcoholism. She raises her voice and waves her arms. This is, hold up. You had a side effect from a medication. Should you have known better that benzodiazepines can cause AKAthesia in people who take SSRIs? No, Peterson differs. Enunciating each word, she spells out, this wasn't a benzodiazepine dependency problem. This was an AKAthesia side effect from psych meds. Her father nods. Right. Yes, that's right. Michaela checks the time. We have to wrap up. He glances up. I'm doing okay, by the way. Yeah, I know. But still, is he absolutely sure? I try once more, that what he experienced wasn't an understandable response to intolerable stress. There's no way AKAthesia is that, Michaela snaps. Peterson's wife is making a miraculous recovery from cancer. His greatest source of stress right now is fear that the AKAthesia will come back. It's unbearable. And there's always this sense that you could stop it if you just exercised enough willpower. So it's humiliating as well. Does it generate a self-punishing voice in his head, accusing him of being weak? Yes, definitely. He worries that AKAthesia must look like weakness to everyone else too. It's certainly how it appears. Grotesque, for sure. He suffered AKAthesia for 26 days in November, and 5 in December, and those episodes would last 5 to 7 hours. So far in January, he has suffered none, but I can feel it lurking. Every morning he takes a 90-minute sauna, scrubs himself in the shower for 20 minutes, walks for between 2 and 4 hours, and then I can begin to have something resembling a productive day. One thing that has not changed is his politics. Asked about the storming of the Capitol in Washington, he clicks back into more familiar, self-assured Peterson mode. I thought that the continual pushing on the radical leftist front would wake up the sleeping right. I saw it coming 5 years ago, and he can put it at Trump's feet, but it's not helpful. I mean, obviously he was the immediate catalyst for the horrible events that enveloped Washington, and perhaps it'll all die down when Trump disappears. But I doubt it. Should Trump be impeached? I think he should be ignored. Incredibly, throughout all of this he has managed to write another book, Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life, the sequel to his self-help bestseller. I ask how he feels about the prospect of its publication this spring. Well, I'm ambivalent about it because I can't judge the book properly. I didn't write it under optimal circumstances, to say the least, so I can't make an adequate judgment of its quality. Why didn't he postpone the book until he was better? I can tell you why I did it. How I could do it. It was easy, because the alternative was worse. He'd lost a year to Tammy being ill, then a year to his own illness. If I would have lost the book, I wouldn't have had anything left. I tell him I'm amazed he managed it, and he looks pleased. If you would have seen me, believe me, it would have been more amazing. When I recorded the audiobook in November, I was AKAthesia almost the entire time. His voice raises and fills with pride. I would go to the studio virtually convulsing in the car. I was moving just frenetically, and then I'd get upstairs into the studio and force myself to not move for 2 hours. If you would have asked me to lay odds on the probability that I would live to finish the recording, I would have bet you 10 to 1 that I wouldn't have. But I did a recording, and it was the same with the book, because Knox would have been worse. So, to the degree that I can explain how I was able to manage it, I'm not going to talk about willpower or courage. I'm going to talk about the lesser of two evils. Except, of course, that he has ended up framing his story in terms of his willpower and courage.
Why wouldn't he frame the story into his willpower and courage? Why do you hate him so much? Why are you filled with hate? Why are you filled with hate, Decca? Why are you filled with hate? That is my question to you. Why are you filled with hate? What exactly was done to you? Did he do anything personally to you? Please answer me. Because the hate that you have for him, it is oozing through your article, oozing through your soul, oozing through everything. Now we're gonna go and talk about AKAthesia real quick, okay? Then after that, we'll look at how benzowithdrawals can get somebody AKAthesia and how benzowithdrawals can lead to death. Because a lot of people are gonna watch this lady's article and they're gonna just think, oh, yes, the misogynist has been brought down. But the real issue with this is like, if we're not human, then what are we? I thought we were human. Mind you, the name of this article is AKAthesia Overlooked at a Cost. Okay? Look at the names of the psychiatrists that wrote it, please. Because of this is straight from a journal. Okay? And what is the name of this journal? I will tell you right now. PMC, US National Library of Medicine, National Institute of Health, NIH. Okay? So we know where this article is coming from. We're not going to sit here and say that it is jargon. I make sure. AKAthesia is an extrapyramidal movement disorder consistent of difficulty in staying still and a subjective sense of restlessness. Subjective, okay? Because when you watch his article, when you watch his recording, you see where he says he feels like it's voluntary. That's why I made subjective. Now let's keep going. Okay. It is a recognized side effect of antipsychotic, antiemetic, which is vomiting. You see, it's not only schizophrenic. And guess what? Schizophrenia has criteria that has to be followed in order to be called schizophrenia. You see what I'm saying? You cannot just call somebody schizophrenic. The daughter said that is one of the diagnoses that only one person gave. And even you writing your article, you did not write any of the criteria for schizophrenia in your article. So you writing schizophrenia was just too big. We clearly have shown that your article was a one-sided biased article that was made for your agenda to say, oh, look at your bootstrap way of thinking. So I'm going to expose you. But the thing about it is you are insensitive. So even your article does not come across as human at all. Now let's continue with this AKAthesia thing, okay? It is a difficult condition to detect reliably and may present unexpectedly in a variety of clinical settings. The patient's behavior may be disturbed, treatment may be refused, or a patient may be suicidal and be mistaken for psychiatric problems. Mistaken for what? Psychiatric problems. So, see that diagnosis for schizophrenia? Mistaken for what? Psychiatric problems. If you don't know what you're doing, you see what the doctors wrote here? Mistaken for psychiatric problems. So we need to be on point when we write articles because certain things are not. It's just hate is a bad thing, man. That's what I'm gonna say. Hate is a bad thing. You're a human, or maybe you're not human, but I'm telling you right now, hate is a bad thing. Now let's continue this. Let's continue this, okay? The patient's behavior may be disturbed, treatment may be refused, or the patient may be treatment may be what? Refused. So when he went to Russia, actually because he wasn't getting better. He wasn't getting better at all. Right? He wasn't. Let me speak in your accent, innit? Are you British? Are you not? But let's continue. Uh, okay, that right there was just funny. Okay, it's because it's actually a serious article. Now let's continue. We report 3 cases seen in cycle. Okay, so they actually reported 3 cases. I actually recommend that you guys go to this website. Okay, go to PMC, right? ncbi.nlm.nih.gov, or you could just Google it. Google AKAthesia. Okay, AKAthesia overlooked at a cost, because this is ridiculous, redunculous. Let me finish up the discussion part of this article, because you see, it's so good sometimes to use literature, because when you use these literature, the things that they're telling you, they haven't even gone to look at the literature, if you see what I'm saying. So you could tell they're not lying, like they, because if they went and looked at the literature, like she's saying, right? Oh, Jordan Peterson goes and looks at literature, da, 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 right? And they came and quoted it. She would have said, "Oh, see, they went to go look at literature. They were lying." She would have said that. So guess what? It's beautiful that he didn't even go to look at the literature. Us, we have eyes. We could do research. See, I'm doing the research for you. Let's continue. Akathisia has well documented as a common and distressing side effect of antipsychotic drugs and an important cause of poor drug compliance. Mind you, they were giving him antipsychotic drugs for his withdrawal symptoms, which is an indication for a lot of withdrawal symptoms. A lot. A lot. Even freaking anabolic steroids. A lot. Let's continue, okay? However, even in psychiatric settings, it is not recognized readily. Even in psychiatric settings, it is not recognized readily. In one study of movement disorder, right, induced by neuroleptics, akathisia was diagnosed only 26% of patients who had it. Only 26%. Okay? We have to come correct. We have to come straight. We have to come correct. We have to come straight. Hate is not a good thing. We're human. We're supposed to look out for each other. What happened to humanity? Now I'm getting upset because I'm reading this and I'm realizing even more and more is occurring to me that there's a problem with that article written because it's full of hate. Akathisia is common in general medical settings, especially when patients are taking antiemetics ondansetron, D2 antagonists. See, I told you I know what I do. I'm not telling you what I do, but I know what I do. Extrapyramidal symptoms, yes. And also SSRIs cause it, yes. Prolonged schizophrenia causes it, yes, but he did not have that. Because clearly he just got misdiagnosed, because guess what? What did we read earlier? It could be mistaken for other psychiatric issues. Correct. And then we shall also see how benzowithdrawal can put somebody in akathisia. This is crazy. You just wrote your article to demean the guy. If you went in to do more research, you would have taken it all back. At least you would have addressed these things I'm coming up with now. Even Jordan Peterson ain't address it. Even his daughter in her video ain't address it. I'm going to do them the favor. Let's continue. And share this video because it's too unfair. Do a little bit more research for you. What if you hate somebody and you want to destroy them? Okay, do harder research. Don't just come up and show us motive that you just have hate in your heart. Because that's too much. The hate is too deep. Akathisia is common is common in general medical settings, especially when patients are taking antiemetics in cancer. Patients undergoing chemotherapy, 50% of patients met the diagnostic threshold for akathisia, yet 75% stated they would not have reported the symptoms of akathisia. Therefore, diagnosis can easily be missed if it relies on patient's reports. But guess what? Like he said earlier, even psychiatric settings, they can't even freaking tell. So what is you telling me? What is you telling me? The people who are supposed to, even, this is a psychiatric field thing more than any other field. Even them having problems with it, 26%. So if you want to come over here and call him a schizophrenic to demean him and make him look bad, we gonna push back on that. If he's really schizophrenic, we gonna say that, but we gonna push back on that till the proof come out. We read your article. You made me pay for the UK Times. If you guys want to go read the article UK Times, go. I don't care. You made me put my credit card info for that because this is what you did. You did clickbait stuff, and that is not is not authentic to me. It is not respectable to me. As a senior interviewer, you just did that because of you had toxic femininity to address. Yes, I didn't want to say that, but you had toxic femininity. This is the new theme of the day because there's no reason why us as human beings, man, woman, we cannot love each other. We cannot care for each other. He clearly stated the whole point of this interview was to show people, even through your hard times, you could come up top. You could come and prevail. You coming over here talking about trying to disrespect. Like you're trying to say, "Oh, got you." Somebody who's going through problems. I'm pretty sure you're the same person. If he was to take his life now, you'll be happy. It's those type of people. No empathy, no human heart. It's just about identity politics at this point. And you know what? My audience, women that is with me, they're just gonna follow me. No, they're not. They have hearts. Anybody who got a heart, they're not following you. Because it could be anybody's husband, son, father, anybody that's dead to them. It could be woman, man, child, anybody that's dead to them. And I think we got to start thinking more like that. Antidepressants, antidepressants are another group of drugs that cause akathisia. The daughter said what? Okay. But like everything the daughter was saying, I'm reading. I did not listen, you guys need to go on this page and watch the full interview. Because when you're done watching the full interview, you understand what I'm saying. All the things, for the most part, that I did not hear anything there that did not make sense to me. Okay. I was doing research as they were talking. As they were talking, I was doing research. So this is why I believe this is very unfair to Jordan Peterson, because guess what? We cannot keep using identity politics to separate ourselves. This is not only in the Black community, this is clearly in every community. This is white, Black, Chinese, all of us. Listen, we are human. Where is the humanity? But are not as well recognized. You see somebody going through akathisia, you still giving them antipsychotics? Okay, you try to taper down, like you try to taper down the dose, uh, and he's still having it. What do you do next? We don't know. If you're not a psychiatrist doing this for years, how you gonna know? You're not. You're not. So him going to Russia, are you saying that somebody that went to Russia, like someone who's going through akathisia, who's clearly going through it mentally, they're gonna start looking at empirical evidence and looking for data? He didn't even remember that he was in Russia. Don't you remember when the daughter said that? That he told her, "You're in trouble. Why am I here? I'm in Russia. I'm scared. Take me back." So how are you writing in your article now? How are you writing in your article now that, oh, someone who's into numbers and all that, how did you end up in Russia? He did not even know he was in Russia. Man, the hate is too high. The hate is too high. Now let's go to the last case. I just like to say R.I.P. Christine Norlock. I'm in a loss for words. I'm in I'm in a loss for words, Christine. I don't know what else to say. Like I feel my heart goes out to you and your family. This website right here is benzoinfo.com. Okay. This article was written by Dr. Hoff, Christy Hoff, medical doctor. Okay. And this is an actual MD. Okay. She wrote this article. So let's read the article.
Christine N. Narlich passed away on June 16, 2017 at the age of 48 after a long struggle with benzodiazepine withdrawal syndrome that ended in suicide. Her husband, Mike, describes her as an intelligent woman who loved life. She was a joyful and happy person with an infectious smile. Everyone who met her loved her. She was a woman of faith and active in her church. In an email a few months prior to her death, she wrote, "I've been happily married almost 23 years and love being a housewife and serving in my local church. I have family, a lot of friends, and enjoy people. I love to smile, I love to sing, I love to read, I love to help people, I love to take care of my husband and my home, and I love so many other things. But my life has now changed beyond human comprehension."
Man. But my life has now changed beyond human comprehension. Prescription of Ativan, lorazepam, okay? Benzodiazepine.
How does such a happy, loved, and fulfilled person end up committing suicide? In April of 2015, she was prescribed 1 milligram of Ativan, lorazepam, that she took 3 times daily for symptoms of anxiety and tremor resulting from hyperthyroidism. She was not given informed consent at the time of prescription that the drug could cause physical dependence and or severe side effects, or that it was not intended for long-term use. Initially, Ativan helped the symptoms for which it was prescribed, but after 2 months of taking it as prescribed, Christine developed a new cluster of symptoms. Her husband recalled she was not acting like herself and wondered if these new symptoms could be a result of the drug. Christine noted she was now in tears most of the time and experiencing the inability to sleep and think properly, losing weight, having episodes of horrible fear and terror, burning nerves, episodes of severe pain, and thoughts of suicide.
Everything he was saying. Everything he was saying. But let's continue because we still don't know what's happening. We just know she's having withdrawals from what? Benzos.
She became unable to drive or care for her husband or her home. She visited multiple physicians who could not diagnose the cause of her symptoms.
See?
Ultimately, she had her thyroid removed in July 2015 at the recommendation of a panel of doctors.
See?
They simply had no idea what else to do. The surgeon who performed the procedure told Mike that he didn't think the thyroid was the cause of her symptoms, but he still reluctantly agreed to do the procedure at the urging of her other doctors. After the surgery, Christine's condition continued to deteriorate. She became increasingly suicidal. Knowing her life was at risk, she admitted herself to the hospital under the care of a psychiatrist, hoping that she would be helped. She was promptly diagnosed with a nervous breakdown, generalized anxiety disorder, and fibromyalgia.
Yo!
The psychiatrist made the decision to stop the Ativan abruptly, assuring the Narlichs that this was safe. What ensued during that hospital stay was not any sort of relief, but instead a rapid onset of mental and physical torture that Christine would endure for the next 21 months.
Yo, we're done. Like, we're not done with the video, but I'm done. Nothing he said was a lie. It's corroborating. It is adding up. Did you see that? Nervous breakdown, generalized anxiety disorder, and fibro what? What did he say he had? Fibromyalgia, right? That you said, oh, do you think people know about fibromyalgia? Do you know about the criteria for fibromyalgia? That is so vague that it's even hard for doctors to prescribe? I mean, to even treat? But look, she had that too. Now, what are we talking? Did you do your research, lady? I don't know. Because I'm doing mine right now, and it's clearly corroborating with what Mr. Peterson said. See, but the hate in you will not even let you do that. It will not let you do that. The hate in you will not let you do that.
What ensued during that hospital stay was not any sort of relief, but instead a rapid onset of mental and physical torture that Christine would endure for the next 21 months. Within a day of stopping Ativan, she had severe skin burning from head to toe. The next day, bright lights appeared before her eyes, combined with the feeling that her head was exploding, followed by loss of consciousness for 30 minutes. When she awoke, she could barely walk for the next several hours, and her pleas for help were ignored by the nursing staff. She was released after 6 days in the hospital on a cocktail of risperidone, gabapentin, and hydroxyzine, while still suffering horrific symptoms. 2 days after discharge, she sought help again in the emergency room, where the ER doctor diagnosed her symptoms as benzodiazepine withdrawal, noting in her chart that she had not been tapered from the drug.
Yo, Can you see that? They don't even know about it. They don't. Look, it's a theme. And instead of you writing an article for benzodiazepine withdrawal, yes, that's what it is. Awareness. You are writing an article about hate. And I hope my article goes viral. I hope Jordan Peterson gets to see this article. Because when it comes down to it, the hate has to end, yo. It is too much. I don't care about identity politics anymore. I don't. I love you, woman. I love my sisters. And I'm not saying that only black people, everybody. I love you, human. Listen, let's take this hate that this woman has put out to the world and transform it to love, yo. Because this shit right here is unbearable. Look, for Christine's sake, please. Let's make this a thing that people will know about. AKAthesia is real.
For the next 21 months, Christine continued to suffer. One of Christine's most severe symptoms was AKAthesia, a state of inner restlessness without her movement that compelled her to pace the house for hours on end. Mike was extremely supportive and understanding of her situation, and he did all he could to help her. As a caregiver, it was difficult for him to feel so helpless, knowing that nothing could be done to make it better. Every day he saw her forehead scrunch up as a wave of painful symptoms began. She would break out in a sweat, tremble, and cry. He remembers thinking how lonely and trapped she looked. Christine became very active in the online benzodiazepine Facebook support groups, particularly the Christian Support Group and Benzodiazepine Information Coalition's advocacy group. Despite her own suffering, she spent most of her time encouraging and lifting up others who were going through the same process. She is remembered fondly by the community, who is heartbroken over the loss of such a wonderful friend. A few of her closest friends from the benzodiazepine withdrawal community write of her. Christine had a sweet spirit. She was encouraging and praying for others no matter how bad off she was. She colored beautiful pictures to help ease her mind, and she also created beautiful scripture with artwork. She was a blessing to the group. Christine was not one for giving up, yet the unimaginable, except to those who have experienced it, challenge she faced in this withdrawal with AKAthesia, among many other symptoms, was unrelenting and without relief unless granted, upon occasion, the ability to sleep. In this state she'd still be an ardent encourager for others without fail. Her Christian faith never faltered, but even this was not enough. Our community experienced great loss when Christine died and still grieves.
And people don't care. Yeah, people don't care. Like, all you care about is about feminism stuff and misogyny stuff and, like, what? When there's people's lives on the line. You did a whole article and you could have done it about somebody's plight. You could have done it about somebody's plight. And you're over here worried. You're over here worried about what? What's irrelevant? That's what you're worried about. What's irrelevant? This is not life. This is not life. This is not life. One night she died. Christine sent a carefully worded letter to a rarely used email account. Her words make it absolutely clear that the relentless nature of the withdrawal symptoms led her to end her life. And the fact that he's alive, we don't even celebrate that. The fact that he's alive, we don't care for, right? Because all we care about is what? All we care about is who's a feminist and who's a masculinist. Guys, we need to wake up. Do not let this lady, right? I don't want to say mainstream media, but do not let this lady lead you to hate. We are not humans because of hate. We're here as humans because of love. Look at what she wrote.
I love you very much. I'm sorry it has to end this way, but I tried in my very limited capacity to trust God with all my heart, soul, and strength. I just couldn't go another day. You'll make someone a fine husband if you choose to be. You need somebody to take care of you. Don't let the day go by without spending a lot of time in God's word and prayer. He'll get you through this. I know he will. Look forward to seeing you again someday.
Oh my God, that's so messed up, yo. I can't even believe that. I can't even believe that.
Help me. It'll be okay, Christine.
Yeah, yo. And we over here talking about identity politics. Like, yo, this is real. This is real.
Yes.
and people not caring about this. Oh my God. Look at what she wrote to her family.
I love you all so very much. I've missed you all terribly. I've suffered horrifically from the lorazepam prescribed by a doctor. Please know I tried to survive. Mikey has video to show you a tiny bit of what I went through. No one can help me. If I go to a psych ward, they will never let me out and drug me to bits. They can't do anything for me. The mental and physical torture I've endured is beyond human comprehension. Please do not let my actions skew your view of God. God is great and mighty. He just didn't choose to heal me, and he knows best. I hope you choose to trust Jesus as your savior.
Oh God, I hope you help her, man. Oh, I don't even know where she's. Oh my God. Look at this.
Where you going? You be okay? You pass.
This is not life, yo. This is not life, yo.
I tried to survive. I just can't do it anymore. Please serve the Lord fervently by winning souls and not compromise. Thank you for praying for me and Mike. Take good care of him. He's a wonderful, godly man.
Oh God.
Keep working hard to spread the word about these evil drugs. My current symptoms include perceptual distortion, AKAthesia, either I'm pacing, rocking, or it feels like my chest is being torn apart. Terror, panic, horrible insomnia, horrible nerve pain, feels like I'm going to explode. Absent seizures, I scream, I cry many times a day. Intrusive thoughts, PTSD, derealization, depersonalization.
Did he say that?
Difficulty walking.
Did he
It's
say
difficult
that?
to eat. I feel very lost at times. Very agitated. Feel like I'm being electrocuted. Thoughts in my mind don't make sense. I can wake up in sheer terror and be unable to calm myself. This can go on all throughout the day. I can only crochet and do a colored pencil drawing when symptoms aren't horrific, which isn't often. There is much more. I've had windows, breaks from symptoms. The last one lasted an hour and a half today, but that doesn't compare to the level of this suffering. Please know, I tried. Alone, she quietly left the house in the middle of the night where she drove to an empty field and ended her life. The medical examiner's findings showed no evidence of struggle, saying she had never seen a suicide look so peaceful. But the gaping hole she left behind in her family, her church, and the benzodiazepine support community can never be filled. May you rest in peace, sweet Christine, and may your story bring awareness and save many lives from benzodiazepine withdrawal. I know that's what you would have wanted. In honor of Christine and Arnold, 1969-2017.
Oh, look, Dr. Huff. Look, she went through it too, man.
Christine Huff, MD, FACC is a board-certified cardiologist who resides in Fort Worth, Texas. She attended medical school at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical School in Dallas, where she graduated Alpha Omega Alpha in 2001. She completed an internal medicine residency at Washington University in St. Louis in 2004. Her cardiology training was completed at UT Southwestern in 2008, with a focus on advanced cardiovascular imaging of non-invasive cardiology. She was in private practice as a cardiologist in Fort Worth from 2008-2011. Following the birth of her child, she made the decision to become a stay-at-home mom. Dr. Huff has experienced benzodiazepine withdrawal firsthand after she was prescribed Xanax for insomnia related to a major health crisis in 2015. After developing concerning symptoms and receiving no answers from her primary care doctor and a prominent neurologist, she began to research benzodiazepines and discovered her symptoms were consistent with benzodiazepine withdrawal syndrome. With the help of a local psychiatrist, she slowly tapered off benzodiazepines using Valium. Christie's personal experience has led her to realize the dangers of these drugs and the severity of the benzodiazepine withdrawal syndrome, neither of which were emphasized during her medical training. She is an advocate of better education of physics and regarding the dangers of benzodiazepines and how to safely taper patients off these drugs, and stronger regulation of the prescribing of benzodiazepines.
And that's it for me, people. Like, share, I guess subscribe if you want to, man. I think point has been made. I don't have to say more. This live is done. I appreciate you, whoever was listening.